If you had been vice president, would you have certified the 2020 election results?
These are crazy. This is like a hypothetical going forward and a hypothetical going backward. I'm not going to entertain that. What I will entertain is talking about how do we go forward. And going forward, when we get an America First president and some great leadership in the Senate and the majority, we're going to do great things for the American people.
Do you still believe that your election was stolen?
We had major problems in our election, and we're really working to resolve those problems. We still have some court cases. What I'm concerned about going forward in the next election is that my radical opponent, Ruben Gallego, wants to give 9 to 12 million people who poured in illegally, invaded our country, the ability to vote. He wants them all to vote. That's wrong.
Did anyone give you advice to not talk about the 2020 election?
No. 2020 election, I think it was a rigged election. President Trump, I believe it was. But what I'm trying to do is look forward.
That was Kari Lake, the Arizona Senate candidate and failed gubernatorial candidate and MAGA Republican conspiracy theorist, in a CNN interview. Very uncomfortable, sort of squirming, trying to avoid directly answering the question about her past dangerous anti-democratic lies about our election systems, then finally realizing what was going on, being like, okay, well, if I'm going to keep MAGA, I guess I have to say, yeah, it was rigged. And sticking to her lie there. Want to bring in our legal expert, Erin Parnas. So Erin, she brought up in that response, and by the way, she was lying about Ruben Gallego's stance, and that's a given. But she brought up her legal cases. No, this is still something serious. I'm not just a crazy conspiracy theorist. I have legal cases. Explain, Erin, what's been going on with her legal cases.
Well, it's funny. Kari Lake is running for Senate, but still claiming she's governor of Arizona. Her legal cases stem from back when she lost to Katie Hobbs in the last election in 2022 for the gubernatorial race in Arizona. For the last essentially almost 2 years, Kari Lake has been in the courtroom trying to get that election result overturned. Yet Lake has lost every single court case. She has argued a number of things, anywhere from that ballots weren't properly counted to even election interference in some instances. And every single allegation she's made has been thrown out by multiple Arizona courts. And Kari Lake, instead of fighting the fight on the campaign trail, she's stuck in a courtroom litigating the past for absolutely no reason, because she's not going to become governor and her court cases aren't going to help her in any way.
Yeah, I will say it's interesting to see. I've noticed this with her campaign. She's definitely trying to avoid the stolen election claims as much as she can. There, she realized that the CNN anchor was trying to sort of catch her in that phenomenon. So she was like, okay, fine. Yeah, it was rigged, because she didn't want that to be the story, that she's running away from those claims. But she definitely is. And it's because of the same thing we're seeing play out with her trying to win back over McCain Republicans and having that back and forth with John McCain's daughter, Meghan McCain. And it's because she realizes, first of all, our election systems aren't being rigged. They're not filled with fraud. And so she actually does have to run a winning campaign. And what lost her last campaign? Not voter fraud, but she alienated the more moderate Republicans with these election denying sort of crazy conspiracy theories. So she's trying to win those people back over. And that was the discomfort that you picked up on in that clip. Then to your point, Erin, is there any other reason other than the political side of things that she'd be uncomfortable continuing these sorts of claims?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at some point when you lose so often in court, the judgments entered against Kari Lake essentially could open her up to potential future liability, potential defamation cases against other folks if she continues to claim that the election was stolen, that the election was rigged, attacking certain poll workers, attacking certain voting booth companies. I mean, we saw what happened to Fox when it continued to spread election-denying claims against Dominion in Delaware. We saw what happened to Rudy Giuliani when he spread election-denying claims to the Fulton County poll workers. Kari Lake has to be very careful not to attack a specific individual or entity, because those types of defamation claims could easily come to her as well. So it's not surprising that she's squirming on CNN when asked about this.
It is funny, by the way, that they say everything's rigged and the elections are being stolen and I would have won if it weren't for the fraud in the gubernatorial election. But now I'm going to run for Senate and I think we can win. Okay. But you brought up defamation. Speaking of defamation, I want to show you this clip of Donald Trump over the weekend in Rome, Georgia at a speech, and then we'll discuss.
Sometimes it's not good to be rich. I just posted a $91 million bond, 91 million, on a fake story, totally made up story. Think of it, 91 million. I could say things about what it would cost normally. 91 million. Based on false accusations made about me by a woman that I knew nothing about, didn't know, never heard of. I know nothing about her. She wrote a book, she said things. And when I denied it, I said, it's so crazy, it's false. I got sued for defamation. That's where it starts.
So Aaron, he already is having to pay millions of dollars to E. Jean Carroll. Yes, for being found to have raped her in a civil trial, but also for defaming her afterwards. And now he's repeating some of the same claims that caused that to happen. What's the liability he's taking on by doing that?
Yeah, it's funny, Luke. History is kind of repeating itself here because the statements he made in that video clip are similar to the ones where he was found liable on originally for defamation. He previously kind of alluded to the fact that E. Jean Carroll was lying about her previous statements about Trump, that she didn't know what she was talking about. And those were the basis of the original defamation case. Trump is now doing that again. Theoretically, he could open up himself up to more liability. And if E. Jean Carroll wanted to sue Trump, she probably could bring another defamation case. But in all actuality, I doubt she will, just because she already has an $83 million judgment against him. He's already posted a $91 million bond. Odds are in the next 18 months to 2 years, she's going to get that money and her attorneys will be compensated as well. I don't think Carroll needs more public kind of attention, more attacks from Trump. I think she won. It's pretty clear she won. So I'm not sure she's going to bring more cases, but theoretically she could bring another defamation claim because of Trump's statements.
Yeah, and just make sure everyone to calibrate yourself as you're observing these sorts of stories. Every time Trump says something like that or goes on those insane Truth Social rants about E. Jean Carroll, he is flooding her inbox, her phone, whatever, with death threats, dangerous messages, and it's been that for years now for her. So this matters a lot. So we talk about here Trump being found liable for sexual abuse in that civil trial, then defamation. This is a characteristic and a part of Trump that a lot of his allies have a really hard time honestly defending. And I came across, as many people did, an interview over the weekend with Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who's endorsed Trump, and George Stephanopoulos on ABC News confronted her about Trump, again, being found liable for raping somebody in a civil trial. And this interview just went completely off the rails when he confronted her about that. Take a look.
Yes, this morning. And you've endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges and two separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape. How do you square your endorsement of Donald Trump with the testimony we just saw?
Well, I will tell you, I was raped at the age of 16. And any rape victim will tell you, I've lived for 30 years with an incredible amount of shame over being raped. I didn't come forward because of that judgment and shame that I felt. And it's a shame that you will never feel, George. And I'm not going to sit here on your show and be asked a question meant to shame me about another potential rape victim. I'm not gonna do that.
It's actually not about shaming you. It's a question about Donald Trump.
No, you are shaming me.
You've endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Right. But to sit here and ask me as a rape victim to try to shame me for my political choices is wrong. And I think it's offensive.
You can repeat that again and again and again.
And I'm going to because I find it deeply offensive.
You don't find it offensive that Donald Trump has been found liable for rape?
I find it offensive as a rape victim that you're trying to shame me for my political choices, and it shouldn't be made a mockery of. But if you want to defend a woman who made a mockery out of rape, then you go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do that.
Well, actually, what you're doing is defending a man who's been found liable for rape. I don't understand how you can do that.
Not in a criminal court of law. This was a civil judgment over sexual abuse, not rape, by the way, and she made a mockery out of it.
Can we
So
pull up
which
the
one are
Washington
you going
Post headline
to?
right there? In fact, it has been shown to be rape. The judge affirmed that it was, in fact, rape. Donald Trump was found to have committed rape. That's just a fact.
I want to close this all out with a response to that from E. Jean Carroll. Who else is best to respond? E. Jean Carroll said, "Thank you, George Stephanopoulos, for valiantly defending me. I wish Representative Nancy Mace well, and I salute all survivors for their strength, endurance, and holding on to their sanity." So some grace there from E. Jean Carroll and character, but as you could tell, Nancy Mace struggling to defend Donald Trump in that situation. Aaron, where can people find you?
On all my social platforms, just add Aaron Parnas.